I definitely think that the God and Country outreach has an amazing impact in our fellowship's influence into our nation. Years ago, actually, it was in 2007, Evangelist Dennis Wright, he came and preached a revival at our church, and he gave our church a word, and there was maybe 15, 20 people there at the time, and he said that this church is going to help govern rules, laws, and guidelines for our nation, and that God's going to strategically put people into our fellowship and into our church that are going to make impact in our nation. And, you know, at that time it seemed very ridiculous for something like that to be said. But as Pastor Szymanski had mentioned to me about 9 years ago that he would like to do something in our nation's capital, have some sort of expression, I saw that as kind of an opportunity. And so when I found that we could actually do something like that, have some sort of expression for the gospel in our nation's capital, I thought, wow, this is actually beginning to come to pass.
Very first time we were trying to get into the Lincoln Memorial area, and we were set to the side. It was just our, trying to figure out how to schedule with them, work with the powers that be up there. We ended up just a stone's throw from the White House, but on the very first outreach we did was the first time the White House, under President Obama, rolled out the red carpet to the queer community and displayed the rainbows in the heart of our nation. The same day, we were up there proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ.
It's a spiritual impact on our nation. I see it as a way of pulling down strongholds, taking dominion, which we know our nation desperately needs in this time and in this hour that we live. We need to get dominion back concerning the preaching of the gospel. And if no one else is going to do it, then we need to.
And all the nations of the earth are represented there. I've personally talked to people in the 2-hour span. I've talked to people from, I would say, 12 different nations. They happen to many times be people who speak good English, and that's why they're touring through the states, and it's very easy to commune with people there, and they are wide open. And I'm amazed at how many of these people from foreign lands have a better understanding of the founding principles of our country than many Americans have. It shocked me, but I found that out there.
I had 4 different people all from different nations approach me afterwards and said that they've never seen anything like that, and that they want their nation to be under God in that same way. And it was kind of like an inspiration. And I remember, I think Pastor Szymanski had spoken to one of those men. He was from Brazil, and just how they saw that as a wonderful, these are people that are Christian and they're seeing this, but it's nothing that they could see done in their own country. So it really opened my eyes to how we have that liberty. So why would we not do it? Woodbridge Church has taken on a lot of the responsibilities, and Pastor Szymanski really wants us to to take charge in that, and we're coming up with the ideas for the dramas and things like that. So there's a lot, and we're not a huge church, and so that's kind of why we need participation in this type of event, is that other people would rally with us.
There's room to participate, and this is what we're trying to get. Just your presence there at the outreach is huge. When we sum this outreach up and it comes to completion, and we pray gathered on the steps of the Lincoln, you're there, you'll see what we're talking about. It is a supernatural moment. But leading up to this, there are flyers to hand out. There's an endless array of souls from every nation to preach to, and there's a lot of Americans there.
There's no need for a 10 or 15 or 20-man drama. It's in one person. It's in George Washington. It's in John Adams. It's in Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was a devout Christian, and somebody could stand and find some of that information, and it would help them actually to learn a little bit about the roots of Christianity in our nation, that if they could find some of the heritage, the roots that are deeply embedded in Christianity and in our country, and just give a speech. We need people to be involved in skits, and I had talked to Pastor Shispansky about maybe representing someone from every major war throughout the history in America. And if you have an idea, if you have a thought, if God inspires you in some way, don't keep that to yourself, but make a decision to let God use you in our nation's capital. Stand in that place and proclaim it.
So people that have never come to the Capitol before, it's kind of taken for granted. It's just the Capitol, and you wonder, what do I need to go there for? It's steeped with the facts of our history. And I, for one, the minute I moved from the West Coast to North Carolina, Jacksonville, I wanted to, I told my wife and kids, I said, the first chance we get, we're going to Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, it took me years to get myself in order to do that and make the trip. And once I did, I was hopelessly hooked, and the burden developed. I said, we've got to get word out to believing Christians, and we got to make a stand in the heart of our nation. And that's where the outreach sprang from. I have promoted some touring of the city, of the monuments, the museums, the memorials, because our history is etched in the granite of those displays, and the brass plaques and the facts are there. We have the Library of Congress. We have certain places where things are just written down in the annals of time and not been changed or edited by the politically correct movement. Therefore, I encourage all the time you can spend there during that week. And we presently we do a tour. It's just a few-hour tour, 3-hour tour, some very important sites and some good historical God and country facts.
We're a Christian nation. I know nobody wants to say that today, but we are a Christian nation, and it's all over. It's all throughout history.
They've taken God out of the school. God's not in the home. God's not in humanity. God's creation is being violated everywhere, yet and throughout the halls of Congress, our Senate, the Congressional Library, different places. Everywhere you go, God is etched into the archives and the history of our nation. When you go to Washington, D.C., you see the truth in the history as it was and should be.
I like going to the monuments at night when no one else is there and when it's lit up.
My favorite place is probably the Library of Congress. Every elected congressman should be mandatory sentenced to stay there 30 days and read everything on the walls. They'll find God was all over our history.
So there is parking. We have parking at 3 parking lots, A, B, and C, that we run shuttles to.
I think our church people need to go because knowing a bit of your history and your roots is vitally important to appreciate what God has done for us. There's only 2 nations on the earth that we could say were founded by divine hand of God, and one, of course, is Israel, and there's no doubts about it, but no other nation was founded in such a fashion as the United States, for the freedom of people to choose religion or choose their path, and we know that our fathers chose to follow God. And our people today have strayed so far. That's what we're aiming to get, is at the heart of this matter, and expose these things and bring some truth and some light and point people in the way of redemption. Making a stand for Jesus Christ anywhere is beneficial. Making a stand in the heart of our nation strikes at the chord of who we are, and it resonates through the land in the spiritual realm. And what about our local church? Our local church has got to benefit when we do this. Just like when you send your church out of town on an outreach and they come home, they were somewhere else all day Saturday building a church, they come home and in church Sunday morning you got 6 visitors and 5 of them get saved. It's a miracle how God adds as we labor. I think if pastors would have this like my divisions, you're wondering, is it going to benefit my church? It'll benefit your church. It'll benefit your people. And one of the greatest things to put appreciation people for what God is doing, who God is, and what they have available to them in their local community is to know what their nation is about and what God has done here. And Pastor, you and your church can benefit if you make this known to them and you present an opportunity for them to be involved in this outreach. It's not that costly. Come up on Friday, spend the day, see some sights, get on the tour with us, learn a little history, God and country. Be there for the outreach on Saturday morning. It's a tremendous event. You'll benefit, your people will benefit, and God can shine again on our nation. I think it's impacting our nation. Hope to see you there.